All right, so open up your laptop and your notebook. You're going to take some notes today on the artist Matisse. Has anybody heard of Henry Matisse or Andre Matisse? Okay. Oh, and by the way, did everybody get their lesson plan done? Okay, if you brought it with you to hand to me, you can hand it to me at this time. Make sure your name is on it. I can't wait to look at them and see how we're doing. I would like you to do a Google search, and you're going to type in Matisse, and I want you to type in the word Fauvism. Fauvism actually means wild beast. Henry Matisse got placed into this group of artists who were using bright masses of color, freely applied. They just got wild with their color. They were coming away from a style of art that was more precise and elegant and pretty, and they just wanted to mix it up. They wanted to do something completely different. And as a result, people started calling them the wild beasts. And so they became the Fauvism period, which means wild beast. So I just want you to type in Matisse, Fauvism. And then click on images. And make sure you write all this down in your notes, in your notebook. Then you can see a bunch of paintings. The worst part about typing in Matisse, Fauvism, a lot of it is his work, but you're also going to see where somebody has studied his work or looked at his style. So somebody who isn't Matisse, their artwork may also show up on this page. Or an artist who was working during the same time period doing Fauvism, you may see some of their work here too. So you can just see some of those really wild, brightly painted and colored pictures. So the kids will love hearing about the idea of Matisse's style being named after the wild beast. And this is a very famous painting by Henry Matisse. And we're actually going to do I was going to bring in paint, and I thought we'll just use crayons. We'll keep it real simple today. And I was also thinking if I was an elementary school teacher, not the art teacher, we would just use crayons. So we're going to do a painting using the Fauvism style today, and that's what the white paper is for. And I cut the white paper down to 8.5 by 11 so that you can fit it into your binder easily. But we're going to use one of his favorite subject matters, which was a cat. He incorporated cats into a lot of his pictures. So our subject matter today is going to be a cat. We're going to draw a cat together. We're going to color it in the style of Fauvism. The next one we're going to talk about is Matisse's cutouts. So just type in Matisse cutouts. Completely different style. Very fun. A lot of artists who became famous, they didn't just continue to do what other artists were doing. They wanted to mix it up. They wanted to change it, go a completely different direction. They wanted to draw a lot of attention to themselves. We're going to do a project today with the 2 pieces of colored paper, and we're going to do a cutout project. Both of them will be very simple and easy. Don't stress about having to draw a cat. I'm going to walk you through it. I'll even draw it for you if you need me to. When I was student teaching elementary, I decided to talk about Matisse and his cutouts. And I came to this picture. And prior to that, I was telling the kids the names of all of the different cutouts that he had done. And when I got to this one, a little boy goes, "Naked Lady," like he was just telling me what he thought the title was. So you always have to be careful. This one is called Blue Nude. This is one of his most famous cutouts. But once again, you have to decide, is that a direction you want to go in your classroom with little kids? Probably not. So, or you could call it Blue Lady, or just skip that one completely. So it's just another situation where, even though they look so sweet and fun and colorful and elementary, if a child saw this, what's going to go through their mind, and what will they say when they go home and tell mom what they did during art time? So you still have to pick and choose which pictures your kids will see. Okay, so he's most famous for Fauvism, bright masses of color freely applied, and cutouts, which is painting with paper. So, like a collage. I got to see one of Matisse's cutouts, and it was called The Snail. I was a little disappointed because I thought, I'm so excited to finally see a Matisse. And then I got to see this one, and I thought, it was a little disappointing to me. It was about as tall as to the projector to the ground, and about as wide as the projector. It was huge. But it was just these big blocks of paper. But it turned out it was his last collage. He was ill and in a wheelchair, and he had to tell people what to do and where to put it. So that made it more special. I think I was hoping I would see something more like this, more alive and vibrant. But this was the one that I saw, and where'd it go? And once I learned a little bit more about it, I appreciated the fact that I got to see it. Okay, so next I want you to type in Matisse cats. When kids find out they get to draw a cat, then they're going to relate. When they find out this is an artist who loved to incorporate cats into his paintings, they're going to get pretty excited, and they're all going to raise their hand and want to tell you all about their cat and their dog and their cousin's cat. Okay. So, as you write your lesson plans for these two projects, you can get online and look at a little bit more information about Matisse, about these two different styles, just so you can fill in some of the gaps about what you would actually teach about these two styles of art done by Matisse. But they're going to love the idea of wild beasts and cats. So we're going to get started. The cat I was going to use is on my cell phone. So I'm just going to, hang on a second. Let me just pull up another one. I want you to grab your white piece of paper. We're going to start with the Fauvism project. And you can grab a pencil. Whenever you have kids draw, tell them to draw lightly. They're going to have a tendency to draw very, very dark, heavy. Even middle school kids have a tendency to want to draw really dark, heavy lines. All right, so we're going to draw together. Let me grab a pencil. First of all, turn your paper over to the back Write your first and last name. You're going to sketch lightly. I'm going to sketch just a little bit darker so that you can see. But you're going to start with a curved line on your paper. You're going to turn your paper vertical, which is like this. This is horizontal, and this is vertical. Hi, did you get it to print?
Yep, it took a half an hour, but it's fine.
Thank you. Justine, you can grab one paper from each pile. Make sure your two colorful papers contrast, meaning they're very different from each other. So make sure you sketch light so you can erase if you mess up. You can see that my line is off to the side just a little bit. It's not right in the middle. Next, I'm going to draw a couple of ears. It doesn't have to be perfect, just do your best. Then while you're doing this, you have to be careful, but you can say, how many of you have a cat? All these hands will go up. They get so excited to share their stories. You can draw the back of the cat. Okay, I just drew the cat's tail, and I want you to look at the side of the head, and that's about where the tail ends. So you see, imagine a line coming down right here. You guys are doing a great job with your cats. And if you mess up and you want a whole new piece of paper, that's fine too. No stress. So then who is your dad? Brad, the one that is the superintendent at Marion? You guys are all doing very good. little triangle with a line coming down. Now you can decide if your cat is happy or sad. We don't want it to be sad, but we've got the eyes and the little nose, and we have the smile. So you can decide, do you want your cat to look really happy with these little things like this? Or do you want him to look a little more serious and like this? So it's up to you. You can determine the mood of your cat. Next, he needs 5 whiskers. 5 on each side. Yep. Next, we're just going to put a table underneath him. Oops. Forgot about my at-home viewers. We're going to put a table back here, so you can just draw a line behind him. You can just draw a line right behind him, so he's on a table. Matisse also incorporated flowers or like wallpaper pattern in his paintings. So if you have room, if your cat is real big and takes up the whole space, don't worry about it. But if you have room and you want to add a little bit of flowers, you can. I'll put a little bit of flowers over here just so you can get an idea. And they don't need to be realistic, because Fauvism is bright masses of color freely applied, and they're not applied correctly. So we're not gonna color our cat light gray. We're gonna color him blue or purple or yellow, something that's not realistic. So for my flowers, I'm just gonna add some circles. I'll show it to you in a second. So I just added a couple of big circles, some stems coming down, and a little bit of a vase. If you have room, add a few flowers. They don't have to be realistic. They don't have to be realistic. They could just be circles. He also did a lot of his paintings with some kind of interesting wallpaper pattern. So this is a good opportunity to talk about pattern with students if you want to go in that direction. Here is a little bit of a wallpaper pattern I've added. So if you have room, go ahead and add just a little bit of pattern to your wall. It doesn't have to be neat and perfect. if you look at your computer and you look at his paintings, you can see a lot of his paintings have a black outline around them. So we're going to go over our pencils with nice heavy black crayon. So I'm just coloring back and forth. Just going back and forth over all of my pencil lines, and I'm going to outline everything in black first. Color his little eyeballs in. This table has a whole little tiny box of
Do you want us to go over all of our lines with black?
yes. Is anyone still waiting for a black crayon? We all have one, okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this is the wild beast style. When you get done, you're gonna start adding color, and it should not be realistic. How many of you thought you'd grow up, go to college, and draw and color cats with crayons? I'm going to go ahead and tell you the next project, because you guys can spend as much time as you want coloring. You can color really fast and get done. You can color really dark and make it intense. You can color it really light and pretty. It doesn't matter. But I want to go ahead and tell you about the next project, the cutout project. So you should have chosen 2 pieces of paper that contrast each other. Contrast is very important with Matisse's art. Contrast means they're very different from each other. These 2 colors are very different from each other. You wouldn't want to choose 2 colors that are very similar. You wouldn't want 2 colors that are both very soft, very pastel, 2 colors that are very dark. You want them to have contrast, be very different from each other. So I chose these 2 colors. So what's going to happen on this project is you'll need a pair of scissors and some glue. I think I'm going to have you just pause for a minute and watch, and I'll show you how to do this. And then when you get done coloring, you can start on this. Okay, so with this project, you'll want to first put your first and last name on the back, and then you take your little square and you're gonna cut out of it. You're gonna cut shapes out of it. If you wanna sketch out your shapes first, you can. You just want to be aware of the center. When you cut out a shape, you don't wanna cut past the center. So when you're cutting out a shape, you wanna start on one side, cut your shape, and end on the same side. You don't want to start on one side and start cutting out a shape and it ends on the same side. So when you do this, you want your shapes to start and end on the same side. You don't want to start a shape over here and it ends over here. So make sure they start and end on the same side. So for you guys, you can just start cutting. If you have little kids, you may want to talk about certain shapes like freeforms or organic shapes, as opposed to cutting out all triangles or all squares or all circular shapes. So you can turn this into a lesson about geometric shapes as opposed to freeform or organic shapes as well. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about when I say all that? Okay. So for you guys, I don't care what you do. You can do whatever you want to, as long as you do it neatly. So I'm just going to cut out an interesting shape. So those of you who were here last week, is this, like, what kind of art project is this? You can tell it's a cat. It's not realistic. So what is it? Abstract. Okay, abstract means you can tell what it is, but it's not realistic. You're going to color it blue. Mine turned out kind of yellow. Some cats are yellow, but still, it's abstract. Okay. As opposed to what we're doing with this project, these are non-objective. So we have abstract, and non-objective. With abstract, you can tell what it is. It's not realistic. With non-objective, you can't tell what it is. It doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to define it. It doesn't have to be a hidden message or a person who's riding a bicycle or a happy face. It is just whatever you want it to be. So these shapes that I'm cutting out are just organic shapes. They don't mean anything, they don't represent anything. Someone could look into it deeply and say, oh, well, I see marine life or something. You know, oh, that's fine for them. But this is non-objective. There's not a right or wrong answer. The artist doesn't have to defend it. It's non-objective. So I'm just cutting on each side. My shapes, I'm kind of repeating the same shape. I don't have triangles cut out of one side, organic shapes out of another side. I chose a shape and I kept going with a similar shape. If you guys would just gather up here for a second, that would be easier. And bring the camera. So once you get done cutting it out, then take your glue and put a little bit of glue on it. And line it up as centered as possible. Always good just to flip it over and rub the back. And then put your puzzle back together. Then the glue is going to go on this side. And you're just going to flip it open like this. Oops. Ta-da! Just a cute little cutout collage. You can talk about cutout, Matisse, organic shapes. You can make it all triangles. You can make it all flames or whatever you want to. So you can also talk about repeating the same type of shape, which would give it unity and make it look nice. But some little kids are going to enjoy triangles and circles and organic, and sometimes you just got to let them go and do whatever makes them happy. But this is going to be the cutout portion of your study of Matisse. So just continue with your Fauvism and your cutout styles. So go ahead and keep working on those. Thank you. You can turn it off now. Okay.